Man, if only you heard us in the green room. Man, this is great to be here. Planetary Health First, Mars Next. I'm Michael, the host, and Salim and I had an amazing conversation, which we hope is just as good, if not better now. Well, great to have you here. If you can introduce yourself, that would be great.
Hi, Michael. Thank you for having me. I'm Salim Malakouti, the CEO and co-founder of NOMA AI. We're a predictive patient monitoring and AI monitoring company for healthcare. It's a pleasure to be here.
It is awesome to have you here. And, you know, man, I am super impressed. You are like a PhD. We don't need to get in all titles, but just talking to you just a little bit in the green room, you are super smart. You're working hard on all these data models. You sound like you have another force to reckon. Your co-founder, clinician as well. So you're really armed, really fasted to solve a really super problem, big problem. You want to share a little more about that?
Yeah, we're AI platform that essentially what we do, we monitor patients' data inside the hospital, and we help making medical complications, time-critical medical complications that happen inside the hospital preventable and predictable and preventable. Really, the mission of our company is to tackle problems that are related to patients' cardiovascular system, hemodynamics, and there are problems that are often cause of death. If not death, then significant medical negative outcomes. And what we're trying to do is we really make them predictable and as such preventable. Like to be able to predict is to be able to prevent. And that's what we want to make happen, but not only long term, but actually in real time, literally at the bedside as a patient is in the hospital. And our first focus is maternal hemorrhage, which is excessive bleeding on moms during childbirth. It happens about 5% of the moms from 4 million patients. That's about 200,000 women. My wife and I, we had our first baby, our daughter, 2 years ago. And it's an impactful, critical problem that happens to people that go to the hospital, not because of critical illness problems, but because they were trying to have a baby. And then when maternal hemorrhage happens, it just completely changes that trajectory.
Wow.
So, and that's what we're trying to change.
So what I would hear is you're really the forefront, the leader to create a standard of care where this should never happen. Avoidable Six Sigma. You got 200,000 women a year that really, someone's pregnant, and at that point they should have your data points should be there where this can be treated and prevented and done. So that's really the end goal, I imagine, for this.
Absolutely. I love what you said and data point. That's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to give one more information, and sometimes people talk about information overflow, but we're trying to say, hey, you have all this information. None of them are telling you what will happen. They're telling you what is going on. We're going to give you one more information that you can actually prevent not only getting those extra information that are not helpful anymore, but actually can allow you to have an entry point for proactive intervention and prevention, preventing patients from even getting there. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to empower physicians with those additional information and technology and solutions that they can have an entry point for interventions before critical complications happen.
I would love to know, I'm not a researcher or scientist, podcaster, so I'm just curious. Curiosity is my thing, my itch. And where is it that you're seeing, and if maybe you can't share, maybe this is all proprietary with your algorithms, but is there a certain time critical point from your data indication that you're seeing? How is that part of your implementation? And maybe I'm going off the rails. Forgive me. Sorry.
No, I think that's actually a great question. The way we're looking at building this technology is, in fact, in an entrepreneurship world, maybe a little bit of a counterintuitive way. What we're trying to understand is we're taking this different approach, maybe from companies that have tried to work in the space in the last decade. What we're trying to do is really understand very well for every single problem inside the healthcare system, how physicians think about patients and what's their workflow, and then build the tools exactly matching that workflow. So instead of saying, this is how we think healthcare should be done, we're trying to understand how they're already doing healthcare, but then bring the power of AI and efficiency of high deep learning models to where we can find these very complex early patterns when humans can't do to the bedside and then empower them with better tools, but bring efficiency to that workflow. And in OB, we're essentially doing the same thing. We're looking at how physicians are taking care of the patients, but now we're asking the question, what can we do with AI to bring those times of interventions earlier? So we're really not changing, in a sense, how they think about the patient. We're changing the tools and the entry points and the timings of those tools and entry points that they have. So for maternal hemorrhage, we're really trying to fit what physicians already are doing, but giving them better tools and proactive tools.
Wow. So you're doing a lot of building this together. And I guess that's why when you look at your website, you have a really powerful advisor. I mean, you have a lot of smart clinicians, and that's the power of your companies, those data points at the bedside with really smart researchers, clinicians to how to do this, how to design it with them.
And I think that's an absolutely important point. One of the reasons we proactively thought that we have to have the right advisors on the clinical side, in addition to my co-founder, who's also a critical care physician, who's been doing research in this space for about 25 years, was exactly that. We thought we need to perfectly know how care is done right now to be able to change it for better without disrupting it in a way that is non-intuitive, in a way that is not acceptable. And that's why we have a great advisory point who I'm super grateful for their advice throughout this process, really making sure we're building the tool that makes sense, the solutions that make sense. And the power comes with also collaborating with the right partners. Some of those names right now I can't share, but we're working with 3 health systems. We're collecting 500,000 moms EHR data. That's more than 10 years of data from about 17 hospitals that we're collecting, so that not only we can build models from large, high-scale data sets, but we can build them so that they effectively work for everyone. We can do evaluation under different subpopulations, really make sure we're bringing these solutions in an effective but responsible way.
I love hearing the fact that what you're doing is you're getting that data across how many health systems did you say? And I know you don't want to you want to be careful on that, but just you're getting, and I guess this is not just local, it's some other areas too.
We're collecting data from 5 states, 3 health systems, and 17 hospitals. It includes data from major urban areas, smaller cities, suburban areas, rural areas. It includes patient diversity that almost matches the country's national patient diversity from demographic perspective. We also have data coming from different major EHRs like Cerner and Epic. So we really make sure we have substantial diversity, both from IT, technology, care setting, rural versus urban area, but also even patient demographics. So we really can build a solution that's generalizable.
I hear that intentionality, which is so important. And, there's such a pushback with AI and the data sets. And it seems like you have really getting a very robust data set. So that is part of your, I guess, you're doing the right pilots or however you call them. What are you in the next 3 to 6 months? Where are you focusing with this? Tell me where your company's going. This is a great time to highlight, for any VCs, potential healthcare administrators, payers, providers. If you could just signal out to the universe on this call today, on this conversation.
Yeah, in the next 3 to 6 months, we're actually targeting submitting our first product to FDA. One of the shocking things as a software technology guy coming to space, I realized that even our products will be a software as a medical device. But I think we were able to build the right partnerships to accelerate that process. We raised our first round last year from 3 amazing VCs, Boom, LifeX here in Pittsburgh, and Impact Investment. And one of our investors was actually the Cedars-Sinai health system through their accelerator program. And we were able to literally take our first product within about a year from when we closed our first round. We're hoping our first product will be in the market next year. We're super excited about it. We're already talking to other health systems on starting pilots for post-market evaluation and adoption. But we also have built partnerships so we can take the technology from maternal hemorrhage to other complications. Maternal hemorrhage is a huge, important problem. It's unbelievably important from how it changes the patient's trajectory. As a new dad who had her first daughter 2 years ago and have to stand at the bedside and watch my wife bleeding, and being the person who was preaching for a year, the maternal hemorrhage is unpredictable, almost freaking out, thinking what will happen to her and will she hemorrhage significantly. I'm super excited about that, but it's not the only problem. Um, Postpartum hypertension is another problem. And these problems don't even happen only in OB. It happens in emergency care settings. It happens in critical care settings. And really, we've already built partnerships for the next 1 or 2 years to expand this beyond maternal hemorrhage to maternal hypertension, to postpartum hypertension, to emergency care. And that's where we're trying to go. We're trying to help save patients in other care areas aggressively and in an expedited pathway. And we're hoping that we can pull that off with all the partnerships that we're building.
Yeah, you mentioned Cedar Sinai, right?
Yes, we were fortunate to become to be accepted in the 10th cohort of Accelerator program. Amazing health systems, amazing folks, and absolutely interesting and exciting program. We gained a lot.
Yeah, I mentioned that because I interviewed Vive of some of their portfolio, and know not a lot about them, but what I was impressed with them is that network, and it's not just nationwide, it's globally. So I imagine there's already probably, healthcare is global, and there's these problems as well. So I could globally. So I could imagine at some point that you will be taking over, or also looking at opportunities internationally as well.
We'll definitely think that's a pathway that we want to go. Again, patient complications and hemodynamics is not a US problem, it's a global problem. And patients, and in fact, outside of US, higher number of patients or moms are dying every year because of problems like maternal hemorrhage. And we definitely want to go global. We're focusing right now in the US because this is where we have our partnerships, our connections, and obviously we're a regulated space. So we're going to take it to the US, try to expand it nationally, and then we're actually actively looking for partnerships to understand what's the best pathway for a company like us to be able to scale it faster beyond US. That's a problem that we think we're going to try to tackle in the next couple of years. Not immediately, but we're really excited to understand how we can contribute to the healthcare outside of US too.
Well, I'd love to learn more about you as a founder, startup, what you do to keep, kind of focused, but also open to opportunities, kind of, what you, not necessarily the books you're reading, what you're doing, but I feel like there's also another powerful thing from founders connecting with other founders, or aspirationally, being mentored by VCs or the board members. What are you doing to kind of create that edge for yourself? Because you have a vision and you have to sustain that. I'd love to hear about that.
Um, I'm I have a PhD in computer science, and I come out of the research world, and I've had the pleasure to work with some amazing, smart people in healthcare and in technology. Um, from doing internships at Google, Uber's autonomous team, or autonomous driving team, to mostly what I did in research with physicians who work in critical care, who work in OB, who work in pediatrics, and it's been an amazing experience to be humbled, to know how much you don't know and how much you have to learn. So going back to one of the things you asked was, I one of the things I actually try to do is to connect with people, learn from the experience. Um, Learning while doing is amazing, and we're trying to do that at NOMA every single day. We have an amazing team that the most important thing I think about our team is the curiosity to learn somewhere that we have a gap, figure it out, and find a good solution for our company. But also actively networking with others to learn from their experiences. To your point, healthcare is a global thing, and patient care does not also happen in a vacuum. So while we think we're building amazing products and that we're hoping that it's going to make significant changes in healthcare, it will not happen in the vacuum. So we're also trying to actively connect with other founders, not only to learn from their experience, but to understand how we can make this a more global solution. We can bring efficiency in decision making, effective data-driven insights, but can we combine that with other solutions so we can also bring the intervention points? So for maternal hemorrhage, who can we partner to bring this a more effective closed loop solution, not only from the monitoring perspective, but also from intervention and other parts of how healthcare is being done on a daily basis. So you're right. Global healthcare is global. It's also not a consolidated problem. And networking with founders beyond what we do, it's something that I try to do every day.
And AI, would you share a little bit about that? I know it's a buzzword, but I mean, it's just when you talk about all the different models, whether it be Facebook investing billions each year on NVIDIA, or just as a researcher, what are you trying to do, or what have you learned about AI, and how are you plugging this in to make your competitive advantage, that moat?
We actually build our own models. So we
Mhm.
don't use large language models. We actually don't even use text as input. We're using raw data that is collected every single day at the bedside through the EHRs, sometimes manually, sometimes through automated systems. But we're also using complex time series data that are coming from the bedside monitors, from other sources. And the reason for that is, and clinical notes are an amazing source of data. I don't want to say they're not, but for the space that we are, we want to be earlier. And often clinical notes needs to be written by someone. Um, as we will probably use them in some space, but in a lot of spaces, we're using data that's already there, the raw data that's before the physician writes down the notes, because we want to be able to be earlier. And because of that, we're actually not using LLM models or large language models. We're actually building our own deep learning models that we're consuming wide range of variables in real time to build this thing. So it's our proprietary models. For competitive advantage, I think that's actually the core of our how we do things differently. So not only coming and solving problems in a targeted fashion, instead of trying to build models for everything or building one model for everything, we're really building workflow integrated solutions for every single problem, but we're also taking a multimodal approach. So we actually know everything that's happening to a patient. Like EHR is giving us substantially important about information about the patient's demographic, the patient's background, his medical history, their care plans. But we're also taking in real-time data that are giving us real-time insight into the patient's stability and conditions. And combining those, we're taking these effective solutions and we're building these solutions that we're hoping that we can make an impact. AI is a large buzzword, you're right, but I think it's an area that will make a huge impact. I think sometimes we're for particular dramatic changes that a lot of people are worried about, which sometimes I'm worried about. I'm a computer science person. I think we're so far from there. So the way I see the role of AI is, at least for the next 5 to 10 years, to be this complementary tool to bring effectiveness to areas that us as humans are not able to be as effective.
Anything that you have been really surprised by on this journey that's taken longer or happened faster just from your founder journey?
Uh, um, for me, I think sometimes is I'm the guy who wants everything to be fast, fast, fast. So sometimes I actually think, hey, I wish we could do this faster. Um, and maybe it's a part of being in healthcare. Uh, and sometimes I put my patient hat on. I'm not always a technologist as a founder. Sometimes I'm a patient too, and and sometimes I appreciate the slowness of healthcare in a way, because we also want to make sure that we're properly caring for a patient. Right, disrupting healthcare in a rapid, uncontrolled way is great for a technology company, but it's not great for a patient if you don't know what implications of that are. So sometimes I actually find changing healthcare slow. And sometimes as a patient, I appreciate that. Now, I think what is kind of maybe particular to the last few years is the dynamics or the national dynamics, um, and being fast in adopting to how the world is changing, and the pathways and opportunities and regulations, and as especially we're going through different waves of national regulatory complexities due to politics or due to finances, due to markets, many things impacting it. I think as a founder, you just have to be quick on your toes. You have to be able to change. You have to change direction. You have to be changing quickly what resources you're using and how you're using them to be able to be on track, which has been exciting journey to be able to be on that kind of roller coaster.
How do you like time your cadence with VCs, updating them, getting insight from them, your advisors? What have you found the most helpful thing as a founder?
Oh, that's an amazing question. And it's actually a question that I ask myself. I mean, coming in out of the research board, you didn't think about fundraising every single day. And then submitting grants is not the fastest thing in the world. So that was definitely an area that I had to adjust myself. I was like, I have to learn, I have to be different. And um, I think the interesting there, one of some of the interesting things I've learned that might be counterintuitive is that the rule of numbers really applies in fundraising. You really want to go out there, you really want to talk to people, but you really also want to talk to people earlier. Some of the best tractions with investors that we've had is the conversations we've had early on, before we even wanted to raise, or before we even wanted to raise from them. Um, we're raising enough fund now, and I see the best traction we've had with actually the ones that we talked to them when we were not raising funds. So I think going early, talking to people, being curious, knowing how they see people, putting yourself out there before you actually read fund, and then putting your ass out recurrently, talking to more people. That's probably the best strategy. With the caveat of I'm still a student of that word and I'm trying to be better and learn more about it. And I've had the opportunity to ask advice, and this is something that other people told me and has worked uh, perfectly or greatly. So yeah, I think that's probably the best strategy there.
Yeah, I really appreciate that because it's good wisdom for all founders, startups, is to have those conversations early and without the ask, I guess. Really, you're getting data points, you're getting out insights, and what I think I'm taking from that is you're building real value. You're building relationships as part of the network. Who do you want to work with? Do they even want to work with you? Are you the right fit? So you're kind of naturally building that. So that is great advice. I've heard that several other times as well. The best time to, I think you put it perfectly. What right now where you're at, in the marketplace, I know you've shared you're doing some, working on growing these partnerships, these relations. Is there anything else you feel would be important for yourself to share today? I want to congratulate you. I should have congratulated you earlier for the Health Innovation Pitch Party. It's, obviously we have the banner and the flyer across all the different partnerships in this involvement. But that was, there was several organizations, startups that were not selected. You were one of them. So what kind of is in your mind right now as you're going out there?
Yeah, to kind of follow up with what you said, I definitely kind of want to appreciate the effort that went into organizing that event. I think it was an amazing event, such a great opportunity for me and for us to again talk to people and connect to people and build network in the Charlotte area and in the North Carolina community. And what an amazing crowd and what an amazing community. Um, and I think that's really what I was trying to get out of it. I'm grateful that we were one of the selected companies, and also got to see what other amazing things the other companies were doing. And I was really trying to be there exactly for the same thing that we were just talking earlier, to be there, talk to folks, build connections, understand what is interesting and what is a priority in those areas, and try to see how I can contribute back potentially, but also build those networks, so I can find our place in that community. I hope for us, for NOMA, this was the first time participating in the North Carolina and Charlotte community, but hopefully not the last time. And we can use that as an opportunity to build better connections.
Yeah, it
And
seems.
I might
Sorry.
miss one of your part of your questions. Happy to circle back to
No,
that.
no, I talk too much. My wife just says, "Just ask a question and be quiet." But anyway, she says it something differently. But I think it was just really. I was there watching all of you. It was really impressive what's going on. I'm super impressed by that ecosystem, the space that will be rolled out in the future. I think, if I was a startup founder in the highly technical, I mean, you're going to have to find your talent, these ecosystems, these pockets. Obviously you're in Pittsburgh right now. There's a lot of good talent there. So I was super impressed with Charlotte, with the health innovation pitch party and that ecosystem. So just was wanting to hear more what your thought was on that, really.
Yeah, I think for us was definitely an opportunity to talk to a lot of interesting folks, but also seeing the Per project and what they're trying to build there. I was definitely a little bit of jealousy that was kind of being triggered in the back of my mind. I was like, "Well, this is awesome," and I also got to walk around the area. I spent the next day at a couple meetings in person, but also a day full of meetings. So I was just walking around the city, hopping from coffee shops to coffee shops, and just seeing how amazing a city is, and kind of thinking, hey, how can we NOMA try to have a bigger role in that community or a presence in that community? We're still a small company. We're already a stage, and uh, but that also is great because we get to pick. We get to pick the areas that we can be at, and I was definitely very excited about how Charlotte, what is the vision the Advocate Health and the Per Project is trying to implement in that area. I was quite impressed and a little bit of jealousy too. But yeah.
I don't think you're alone. I would second that. And as we're kind of coming towards the end, I'm so glad you came on. I would love for you to share a little more. Out there. Put. You've come on. And is there anything else that you feel that you'd like to share before you tell people more about your company, where to be found, how we can get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, you can find us on our website, NOMA.ai, and my email is literally Salim@NOMA.ai. I'm sure people can find it on email website, like email hunting websites. So not afraid of sharing that. I would love to talk to whoever has experience in the space or is excited about these problems, to both learn from them, but also again better understand the ecosystem. But if I have a couple more minutes, I really want to kind of emphasize on the importance of these problems. Um, we had our first baby 2 years ago. I'm a proud first like a new dad, and still going through that process, especially knowing what I knew, was quite scary in a sense. Seeing your significant other, person who you love most, is bleeding, and then knowing how unpredictable that can be, going from a normal level of bleeding to a critical level of bleeding, where you might actually lose your life. And I really want to highlight the importance of unpredictable problems like maternal hemorrhage, especially in OB, especially in obstetrics, where patients are coming there to have a new baby, to start a new chapter of their life, and that can quickly make a turn, and become a completely different trajectory. And so, if anything, that keeps me up at night and excited moving forward with all the challenges that's there to be a founder of an early stage startup, is knowing the importance and the impact of those problems. I hope we can make a difference in that space, and have a contribution to that experience of patients and mothers that potentially are experiencing these problems.
Well, I would already say you're making a huge difference. If you're based on data points and everything you've done, of course you're making a difference. And I hope you the best of success with this big scaling effect and all the work you're doing. And I'm really glad you were able to come on, and it's been great to meet you.
Yeah, Michael, thank you very much for the opportunity. Had a great conversation, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.